Good morning, everybody, and happy Aloha Friday. Welcome to our virtual meeting of PSG of Mercer County. So nice to virtually see everybody. One thing, I looked up on the National Day calendar. I learned today is my favorite day. Today is National Chocolate Mousse Day. So it honors that really fun and decadent dessert. So if you don't mind having a chocolate mousse, well, I guess you have to make it. It's a little harder to go out these days. Maybe you can have a chocolate pudding instead. But today is also National Chocolate Mousse Day in addition to Aloha Friday. Want to welcome everybody to our PSG of Mercer County group. PSG of Mercer County is a group that is here for you, anybody that is in any kind of career transition. And it doesn't really matter why you may be in a career transition, whether it was a decision your company made, happened to me twice already, or if it's you're taking your own career in your own hands. So welcome to PSG. We are here to provide a little bit of guidance and education and other informative information for you. A couple of resources I'll just let you know. I'm sure we have a couple of visitors or new attendees, so welcome. We do have a LinkedIn group. Our LinkedIn group is called PSG of Mercer County. We have over 1,500 members in our LinkedIn group, and they're all people that have come to our program at least once. In most cases, they've been to our in-person meetings, but we've recently been adding people that let me know that they've joined our virtual meeting and joining us for the first time. So please, if you'd like, look up on LinkedIn for our LinkedIn group, PSG of Mercer County, and do request to join. If you and I haven't met before, if I don't know you, also send me a personal note letting me know that you did attend this meeting, because we only accept people in our LinkedIn group that I know who've been to one of our meetings or now our virtual sessions. It's just we want to keep the members of the group, members who are really a part of our our in-person group. The reason why is we're trying to keep the list collectors out and the people are just interested in PSG for themselves. That's why it's important that I told you that everyone in our LinkedIn group has been to our in-person group or now our virtual group. Share leads, share articles. Maybe you've gotten an email from a recruiter for a job that sounds good but doesn't fit your skill set. Copy and paste that and post that in our LinkedIn group. Somebody else can use it. Others do that. There's been a lot of information lately that we've been posting related to the CARE Act to help people, and there's some other business information. So go look at those articles as well. We do also have our website. It is called psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org. We have over 120 pages of web content. We also, in the right sidebar, now just posted a link for our YouTube channel. All of our virtual presentations, this is the third one, will be in our YouTube channel, so you can always go back and watch them there. And we also have a job boards page of 2,600 local companies in Mercer County and the 6 border counties, and you can go take a look, and it links directly to those companies' career pages. So they are, as hopefully those companies are keeping their career pages current and up to date, and therefore you'll have very current information as well. Or use it just to create a company list locally. If you're looking to take a look for a job or for companies a bit more local to our Mercer County area. Just a couple of ground rules. Our virtual meeting ground rules, a little different than our in-person ground rules. I have muted everybody on this call, except for right now, Gary and myself. Gary will be the presenter. There is a chat option if you want to ask questions. If you are not yet seeing that, usually it's on the right side of the screen. What you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you may have to wiggle your mouse over the PowerPoint slide. There's a menu at the bottom, a couple of buttons are there. One is called chat. If you click that, a chat window will open, and then you can write chat questions or messages during the presentation. Gary does have an intermission in the middle of the presentation, and he will then take questions through chat. We will not be turning on the microphones. Reason why we will not be turning on the microphones right now, we've got over 80 people. It would just be too, I guess, a little too disorganized if people tried to speak up at that point. So I'm sorry for that little inconvenience, but we will try to get your questions by chat. And then Gary, again, will have chat questions at the end of the program as well. You can keep your video off or on, that's up to you, no big deal. And so that's basically our slide presentation that we'll have. So what I will do now is just introduce Gary, and I'm so glad that Gary's able to participate with us in this way. I'm very pleased to welcome our speaker this morning, Gary Lande. Gary is known to many of us at the PSG of Mercer County Group. He's on our executive committee. He is the co-chair of our training committee that develops programs to support individuals in job search, and I'm glad that this program is one that he's able to present for us. Gary is also a professional career coach who focuses on helping individuals in career transition develop their written job search materials. He's a member of the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. His mission is to help open interview doors for his clients. He does this by working with them to perfect their resume, optimize their LinkedIn profiles, and write compelling cover letters and thank you letters. We'll be talking about that more in just a moment. Prior to supporting his clients in search of career opportunities, Gary was a supply chain management executive for Fortune 100 pharmaceutical and consumer product companies, including Bristol Myers Squibb and Johnson & Johnson. He enjoyed a long, successful corporate career, and brings substantial personal experience about job search, having been in transition himself several times. So PSG of Mercer County is always pleased to welcome our very good friend, Gary Lande. All right, Gary.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to pick up with David's last comment about me and share it with you that I was actually in transition 4 times during my career, and I hope there's nobody in the audience watching this that has been in transition more than I have. The good part was each time I had the benefit of professional outplacement support, and in the year of 2009, which was the recession year especially, I attended many, many network meetings and presentations. And all that time, as important as I think letters are, cover letters and thank you letters, I have never seen one presentation about this subject. And that was the thing that motivated me to try to tackle it. Letters are certainly an important part of your job search, and I will show you why the title of this has the word underutilized. But what I will also show you, of course, are the kind of letters that are going to either get you interviews or help you to get job offers. So, my objective in this presentation is to outline what you should say in your letters that will obviously enhance your candidacy and help set you apart from competition. The competition is great as we speak with human resources professionals and recruiters. It's not uncommon for the kind of positions that you professionals will be applying for that there are 40, 50, and more applicants. So the things you want to do, obviously, are to stand apart and stand out. This is a picture of today's recruiting or HR manager. Somebody that's working under a great deal of pressure with deadlines, somebody that has probably a shorter attention span than he would like, and somebody who's looking for the right person or the right candidates that's going to be attractive, excuse me, to the hiring manager. So I want to deal with cover letters first. And let me ask you some questions. Do you submit your resume with a cover letter, or do you submit it without? A lot of people that are working online today see job opportunities and fire off their resume without a cover letter. Some add a cover letter. And of course, the real question is, as you do this and you're conducting your job search, are you getting interviews? As I mentioned before, I believe that the cover letter can be as an important a part of your marketing documents as your resume. And the reason is you get to say things in a cover letter that are not in your resume. As I work with people and I look at cover letters that they write, most cover letters are either too long or too short. And as a guideline for you, I suggest that a cover letter should be no more than 1 page. Again, it's going back to the issue of the person who's the HR manager or the recruiter going through so many different resumes and letters. You want to make the writing very, very concise and to the point. And the problem with many that I see, as I mentioned, is the cover letters just says what's in the resume. And they do not provide information that enhances their candidacy. So first, let me quickly go over how to send cover letters. You can certainly submit this as a second document online along with your resume. Put your resume in first, and then put your cover letter in as the last page. Or you can certainly email it separately. Or you could snail mail it. And my suggestion is always use business letter format if you're going to write a letter, and use quality matching stationery. This is if you snail mail it. You can send it in a regular envelope, or some people like to send it express mail or certified mail. Again, if you're snail mailing it. This is up to you. I'll talk about this more as we go on. And of course, if you mail it, you can also mail a cover letter with or without your resume. So again, I'll speak about this more as we go forward. Next, I'm going to show you an example or a sample letter of the kinds of letters that I see people sending. This is an email letter to the HR manager, in this case, Judy Smith. So the salutation: hi, Judy. I just wanted to let you know that I've submitted my resume for the position of Director of Production Planning, posted on monster.com. As you review my experience and accomplishments, you'll certainly see that I have many of the qualifications listed in the job description. I'm a supply chain management professional. It goes on with many years of experience in the pharmaceutical and consumer products industries. As you review my background, you'll see that some of my greatest accomplishments include capacity planning and priority planning, which dramatically improves service to customers. And my closure is, typically, I'm very interested in speaking with you about this opportunity and look forward to a personal interview. Okay, so some of you hopefully are thinking, well, what's wrong with that, Gary? That's not bad. And it really isn't. It really isn't. It's something more that shows that you're putting a little something extra into your application rather than your resume alone. Now I'm going to show you the real letter that I sent to Judy Smith. And by the way, as an anecdote here, since this is not a long presentation, when I started looking for opportunities at this time, I remember sitting down and opening up monster.com, putting in my background on the kind of opportunities that I was interested in. And what I got were a list of 3 jobs, of which this was one. And this was the one that caught my eye. I liked the content. And after commuting very, very long stretches for many years during my career, here was an opportunity that was 20 minutes away. So I said, yep, I'm definitely applying for this one. So I thought it important because I prefer snail mail, because everybody that's reading resumes these days are so busy. Rather than trusting that what I wrote was going to be read online, I sent this following letter to Judy Smith. the date, my address, and addressed to her at Recording for the Blind and Dyslexic. Dear Judy, this is business letter format. I just wanted to send you a personal note to let you know of my interest in this production planning position posted on Monster and that I've submitted my resume. To familiarize myself with the company, I took the opportunity to connect with some former employees. I have highlighted this in yellow for a reason. And the reason is, this is the networking that all of us in career coaching encourage all of you to do when you make contact with a company and when you have interest in a company. This is very important. We're now getting to personalizing. And you can be sure of one thing. As I talked with Cassie France and Jan Taffel, who spoke very highly of the company and that it specialized in helping students with visual disabilities, et cetera, the first thing that's going to happen after this letter is read is the HR manager is certainly going to call and speak with Cassie and with Jan. And that's exactly what I want, because they're networking contacts, and they're also, assuming that these discussions that I had with them went well, they're also an inside referral. They're really referring me, aren't they? And then I talk a little bit about what Cassie and I spoke about the company growing and the operations challenge to supply thousands of books on CD to students on time. And Cassie said, hey, get in touch with Judy. Beautiful, right? I'm not just coming at her from out of the sky. And then I'm talking about my supply chain profession, that I'm from the pharmaceutical and consumer products industry. And as you review my background, you'll see that some of my greatest accomplishments include capacity planning and priority planning, which dramatically improved service to customers. This was the information that I got from Cassie, that the big challenge is that there are thousands of students out there that need these books on CD that have learning disabilities. But I also asked myself a question at this point. What is the reader thinking? Why is this guy approaching us in our digital world of recording CDs from the pharmaceutical and consumer products industry? Is he making a career switch? Does he really have matching qualities that we're looking for? So I anticipate that a little bit. And I say, I'm seeking a second career where I can use my knowledge and experience from these companies that I worked for to make a special contribution to the organization. Then this is something that I had that was personal that I absolutely had to include. I mentioned that when they were kids, both of my sons needed help with reading to do better in school. And as parents who were kids who were struggling, I really appreciate the importance of the special educational assistance that they received, and that it would be especially meaningful to me if my work enabled me to give something back by helping learning disabled students. So I grant you that this is a coincidence and that this was an opportunity. But what I'm really trying to show you here is, as much as you can in your cover letter of personalizing your interest in the company and making that connection with understanding what it is they do and how you would be so strongly motivated to help them with their problems and their opportunities. This is why I certainly added this paragraph. You might not have this kind of a situation, certainly. And then instead of this, what I encourage is find out as much as you can about the company. And you can find out, certainly, if you network in, what their challenges are. And if you can talk about the things that you've done and how you've dealt with challenges like that, you see all of this is the extra meat and potatoes of things that don't appear in resumes that will set you apart from your competition. So in closing, I said, based on what I understand thus far, I'm very interested in the position and look forward to meeting with you and other members of the organization to explore this opportunity. So the rest of the story goes that I mailed that letter on Tuesday. I got a telephone call on Wednesday to come in for an interview on Thursday. I had one-hour meeting with an assistant vice president who I would be reporting to, and his boss, the senior vice president. And the next day, I was called and told I was getting an offer. That's really the story. And what I want to leave you with there is the importance of the personal stuff, the networking connection, how you understand the business, and so on and so forth. And you can do that, as I did, without even the same industry background. And a lot of you today that are out in search, especially people who are more senior, are finding opportunities in other industries than the one that they worked by taking this sort of an approach. This opens up more opportunities for you, and that's really a lot of what job search is about today. So just to summarize, this is just capturing the format of the letter, and you can just use this as a little checklist of the things that you want to do when you're writing the letter. Name and address of the person you're writing to. Sometimes difficult to get that. The salutation, always addressing it to a person by name. And I know you're going to have comments and questions about that. Why you're writing this letter. And you're not just sending content of the letter that includes your resume. That you network with employees in the company. My son was looking for opportunities last summer. He came upon an excellent one, and he was told when he was going to be interviewed that he would be asked to make a little presentation about, he's a marketing and sales guy, and he was going to be making a presentation about how he would come into the company and approach his job. And that's my son, Michael. And what he did is he networked into the company, into the part of the company where he was working, and he spoke to not one, not two, but 3 different people, just to have a chat, introduce himself, get information about the firm. When he finally got in and he started his interview, and they said, okay, Michael, why don't you show us your PowerPoint? Michael started to speak, and there were several people in the room, and the hiring manager stopped him about 3/4 of the way through. And he said, Michael, this is an outstanding presentation, and especially, I see that you have been talking to our people. He got to know so much about what was going on in the business, it became obvious to the hiring manager that he couldn't know that unless he spoke with some of the people in the organization. That's the power of networking. And the comment from the hiring manager at that point in the interview was, Michael, you are an awesome candidate. So you know where it went from there. He had one more interview, and then, of course, he joined the company. So what you know about the company is really super important. You research their website. You can look at other companies in the industry. And above all, learn about the challenges. And you obviously are going to tell them how your background meet the requirements of the job and what kind of contribution you can make. Why are you really interested in this position? And finding something, putting all this together that's compelling. And when you close these letters, make sure if you are working with a recruiter that you copy the recruiter. And that's really it about cover letters. So we'll take a time out for your thoughts or your comments about cover letters.
So Gary, a couple of questions have come through already.
Okay.
If you're ready, we'll read them off to you.
Certainly.
One is from Paul. He's wondering if you've conducted any research that shows whether HR managers read cover letters when they are submitted with the resume.
Oh, that's a great question. The answer is no, I have not read anything, but several months ago, we had at PSG of Mercer County on a Friday morning, a panel of HR people. And the discussion was about many, many different aspects of job search. But one of the questions that somebody asked was right on target here. They asked whether or not the recruiter read cover letters. And unfortunately, the answer is not black and white. One person said, never read cover letters. A couple of other people said, absolutely read cover letters. And the reason is, I want to know something about the person. And these things come out in letters that don't come out, obviously, in resumes. So the answer is, it certainly is up to you. But if you do your homework, as I've outlined here, and you have interesting and important things to say, it certainly is only going to potentially help you. And my feeling is, and this is just personal, that cover letters are being read by more people, more recruiting people and hiring managers than the ones that do not. I have a tendency to think that the one person in that meeting that we had that said that they don't was probably overwhelmed with enormous number of resumes, and that was the reason why they were not read. But hopefully that sheds some light on that.
Okay, good. Thank you. And also what we've learned is if you ever submit or upload your resume to the applicant tracking system and there's no additional place to attach the cover letter, attach the cover letter at the end of the resume. So when they open the file, they see the resume first because that's what they're expecting. And as they scroll down, they'll find the cover letter.
Right.
Okay, so next question. This is from Bill. Is it okay in closing to refer to the current crisis and that you understand how that many affect their ability to respond properly?
By the current crisis, does the person mean the health crisis?
He didn't write it. Let's assume that, yes.
I see nothing wrong with that. That's present, that's contemporary. Whatever comment you want to make about it is fine as long as it is somehow relevant to the opportunity with the company and the search process. For an example, my younger son works for a pharma company which is now working on helping to develop one of the treatments for COVID-19. If you were writing a cover letter, he certainly would be talking about that. It would probably also be in his resume. So whatever it is, I would make sure that there's some connection between your background and the relevance to the opportunity. Otherwise, you're just kind of having a discussion that you have when you walk in for an interview or you have a phone interview. And I would not do that.
Okay. A couple along the same lines, and I'll read just one. How do you handle it when you don't have a person to reach out to for personalization? And there are a couple of questions along these same lines. So if you hear it, I'm not going to read each one. So when you don't have a specific person to write to, how do you handle that?
When you don't have a specific person to write to, but you still want to write a cover letter, the thing at least to find out is the position that you're writing to. One of the things that I'm not comfortable with is to whom it may concern. That's really terribly impersonal, and I would at least find out what title it is or what person it is. And you can do this in various ways. As long as you know the company, you should find information like this on the website. I've used an approach of just calling in on a main number and saying, gee, I'm trying to respond to a letter that I received to the HR manager or the HR director, and it would help me a lot. I'd just like to send them an email. Could you please give me their email address? This is information that's in the public domain. It's not personal, it's not private, and there's always somebody in there that could help you with that. That would get you a name in addition to a title.
Okay. And yeah, there were a couple of questions along those lines. What if you cannot identify the hiring manager? That's kind of similar. How do you find out the competitors? Is it from networking? That would be one way. Let's see.
Very definitely.
Will we be sending the presentation? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and certainly LinkedIn is your friend here. You know, you look up companies, you can look up industries, in addition to looking up people. And even Google is even better because it's broader. I find it fascinating how I can put such general questions in there and get such good examples. So Google is your friend in this, and you can find out information about these things this way without really taking a heck of a lot of time.
A couple of questions. Will we be sending the presentation or making it available? Yes, I'll talk about that later. Can you go back a slide? No, just download the presentation in a few minutes when it's ready. Actually, the presentation is on our website now. If your resume doesn't demonstrate a high match for the job you're applying for, how much does a cover letter really help? I face this dilemma all the time, and I'm using many of the techniques you're suggesting already.
Well, first of all, if you see that you're not really a strong match, that's going to be self-evident. But there is one thing, if you're not that strong a match, which is a key thing that will get you attention. And that is basically what I've already mentioned, and that's the personal contact. There's nothing as strong as a personal contact inside a company to help you get noticed. So that's if you're not really that strong a match and you're concerned about that, but you're really interested in the company, that's the thing that you should be focusing on, helping you in addition to submitting your resume.
Great. Another question from Jim, does the applicant tracking system review cover letters?
If you put a letter in, as David said, is the last document, the last page that you submit, an applicant tracking system really is just reading words and phrases, and it's looking for the words and phrases that match the key words and phrases that the person who wrote the job description put into the system. So in my mind, what will be in there will be some of the words and phrases that are actually in your resume, plus other things. As long as the resume is written in plain text and observes the rules that we have for getting through ATSs, there's no reason why the ATS doesn't look at all that and read all that. I don't see that as harmful at all. If anything, it will be a little bit helpful.
And actually in July, we have a scheduled presenter from ICIMS, one of the applicant tracking system providers. So sorry that you may have to wait that long, but we keep applicant tracking system on our presentation list because we know it's important. So this will be the last one, so we can move on. If you do know who the hiring manager is, this is from Jeffrey, if you do know who the hiring manager is, would you send it to him or her instead of to HR?
I have a kind of an ethics rule about this. Where hiring managers and HR managers and recruiters are concerned, I like to copy everybody. You're in a situation where you're trying to build relationships. And one of the important things in building relationships, obviously, is keeping up the communications and keeping everybody in the loop. I see nothing wrong, let's say if you're working with a recruiter and you're telling me you know the hiring manager, to send a letter to the hiring manager, but I would absolutely let the recruiter know that and make sure that you copy them. That way you're working very, very much in the open. It's very ethical and you're not going to be stepping on any toes.
Okay, so thank you, Gary. Let's move
Okay?
along then.
All right. Moving on to thank you letters. I hope everybody writes thank you letters. I'm sure that you do. The question really is, what kind of results are you getting? Are you getting called back for a second interview? Are you getting a job offer? Or did you get no feedback or negative feedback? Obviously, these are all the things that happen after a cover letter is sent. So most client thank you letters thank the interviewer, but here are some of my observations of the ones that I have seen. They do not summarize what was really important in the interview. They don't explain that they really understand those challenges in the job. And they don't emphasize the value proposition and how they have the experience and the accomplishments in the position to meet those challenges. Sending thank you letters is really kind of the same guidelines as cover letters. You can use email, you can use snail mail. As you can gather by now, I'm definitely a favor of snail mail. You want to use business letter format that I've shown, and you want to send it either regular mail or registered mail. I think regular mail will do. So this is now again an example or a sample of one that I would send if I were just sending the average or ordinary letter. Thanks for spending time with me regarding the Director of Materials position. I believe you'll see from our conversation that my experience and accomplishments in the drug industry make me a strong match for the job. I'm very interested in this opportunity and look forward to meeting with you again to learn more about the responsibilities and how I can make a positive contribution as a member of your team. And as I mentioned, copy human resources, copy the recruiter. This is something that I see very, very often in working with people, working with clients, and they focus on what they believe is short and sweet. It's a thank you letter, and that's what it is. Let's look at an actual letter that I wrote to the hiring manager, Nick Adams. I send it business letter format. I thank him for taking the time for our meeting and sharing information with me about the company and the supply management function. I highlighted in yellow that he gave me a detailed description of the organization and business issues being addressed. And what was important for me is that it gave me a good understanding of the challenges facing the new Director of Materials Management. I tell them that I'm excited about the possibility of joining the company because I want to make a long-term career with one that's a leader in its marketplace. And this particular company, this paragraph goes on to say, was the first to introduce non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs into the US marketplace. That's very, very important because that was a super, super opportunity. And certainly, I was go on to say that the company joining the company would offer me the opportunity to improve material management performance in ways that I've done in previous drug companies, which had an impact on sales and profits. And that I believe that my background and achievements are an exceptionally strong match for your needs. And I go on to be a little bit specific about that. Our discussion made it clear that planning and purchasing, and these happen to be areas in which I am professionally certified and have the greatest depth of experience, are exactly the ones especially in need of improvement. And I go on to say about how I successfully increase customer service and reduce purchasing costs. The rest of this paragraph is about the specifics and the meat and potatoes of the things that came from our conversation, and I'm connecting with the things in my experience and my accomplishments to show that I'm very, very well qualified for this job. And closing, as usual, I'm eager to learn more about the improvements that can be made, and look forward to getting together with you and other members of the organization to continue discussion. Closure, copies, as I mentioned, and in this case, since it's common when you go on interviews to be speaking not only with the hiring manager, but with others, what I recommend is, rather than writing something to each and every person, and some people meet the hiring manager and talk with 6 or 7 or 8 other people, and it becomes a little laborious to crank out 7 or 8 or 9 different letters. What you can do is just copy the others that you met with. That's an easy thing to do. You don't have to recite everything that you discussed with them, but it's good for them to know what you discussed with their boss and your potential boss. So I really think that works, and I recommend that. I've done that, and the recipients appreciate it because they got the recognition of the time that they spent with you. So again, a quick summary of what's in a strong thank you letter. And as David mentioned, he's posting this on our website, so you can go back and look at this presentation exactly as I'm giving it to you. I don't think we have to go through this again, but you're thanking him, why you're interested in the position. You focused on the key points discussed, the things that he said were really important. And I would share it with you, when I had this interview, after we shook hands and said hello, Nick turned around, he had this enormous blackboard on the wall, and he started writing all these notes of things that we discussed. So I said, hey, do you mind if I take notes? And he said, no, sure, go ahead. So I was sitting there and I was writing down everything that he was writing on the blackboard. And then what I did is I condensed it, I dissolved it into what I showed you in the thank you letter. Sometimes you may meet with somebody and they may say, if you want to take notes, nah, I prefer that we just talk. Well, what I do then is I take a little dictaphone with me in my car. And as soon as I leave that meeting, as all of the discussion is fresh in my mind, I'm dictating what we talked about. Then when I get home, I listen to the dictaphone and I can create this kind of a letter without actually taking notes during the meeting. So this is the rest of what I have showed you. And I highly recommend these approaches. If you follow these recommendations and present yourself this way, you'll present yourself as extremely professional and businesslike, and this will definitely enhance your candidacy. So that's the summary of the thank you letters, and I welcome comments or questions.
Okay. One comment, kind of interesting, in today's times where there's a lot of social distancing and people not in the office, it may not be practical to use snail mail. People may not be in the office to receive it or distribute it.
If that is the case, then that's the fact of life.
Hmm.
And then you absolutely want to use email.
Okay. Very good. From Michael, how do you do a CC in a handwritten letter? And you showed that a little bit on slide 24. I'm just wondering if anything else you need to mention about that.
Yeah. When you meet with people, always get their business card, and then you can send them, if you snail mail it, a copy of the snail mailed letter.
So you're making 2 copies.
It might be
or
several.
more. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Might be several. But you have the address information. Just make sure that you have their business card or get that information from them. Strangely enough, some people today are working and don't have business cards. So you're going to have to ask for that information. But I would get that so that they definitely get a copy of the letter. And you
Okay.
can snail mail that, or you can email those to the copy recipients.
So this next question comes right after what your last comment was about snail mail or email. It's from Paul. Do you have any recommendations on how to use a physical letter in conjunction with a thank you letter email?
You can do both, if that's what the question is asking. You can send your letters by email as well as by snail mail. Pardon me.
And Mark has a similar question. Is email good enough for a thank you letter, or should you snail mail or both? It's kind of similar, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. If you look at this picture on this final slide, and you see people, you see 2 guys handshaking, and you see, I'm assuming that the one on the right is the hiring manager and the one on the left is the candidate. Just because, well, he's taller, so he must be the hiring manager, right? Now, he's got his left hand on the right shoulder of this person, and there are people smiling behind. I'm going to underline and say the word personal 3 times. Personal, personal, and personal. The more personal you can make this process, the more you absolutely enhance your candidacy. And I'm reminded of numerous presentations by Alex Freund, where he talks about chemistry and the importance of when you first introduce yourself to somebody, and the eye contact and the smile and the body language. And to me, the letter is kind of punctuating all that and is trying to do the same thing. So as personal and contact-wise you can make it, so much the better. You know, for an example, when somebody sends you a gift, usually you send a thank you. You might send a little card or you send a little note in the mail. Think how different that is than if you sent the person an email and thanked them for a gift. It's just that little bit of subtle difference that makes a difference. So I advocate snail mail.
Okay. Your salutations use a first name. Should we ever use Dear Ms. Smith or Mr. Jones?
You can. That's up to you. Again, I like the personal approach, and if I know what the person's first name is, I prefer that.
Okay. From Jess, I sent the thank you email and never received acknowledgement from HR. How long should I wait to follow up?
I would let a couple of days go by, maybe 2-3 days. And then I'm glad somebody asked this question, because often I get the questions about follow-ups. Okay. And people are sometimes reluctant to follow up because they don't want to feel like they're annoying somebody or nudging. So my recommendation on that is use the different media for communications when you're following up. Use email one time. Use phone a second time. Use, let's say, an instant message a third time. And if you do it that way, you can be sending somebody communications every couple of days. And because it's coming in a different form, it seems less like you're being overly anxious or annoying them.
Let's see. From Anthea, do you have a sample introductory letter that can be used to introduce yourself, but different than a cover letter?
I do not. No. When I'm working with individuals, usually they already have a resume, at least a resume in the rough, and we talk about moving ahead into looking at job opportunities and customizing the resume to match the job, and then also about a cover letter that matches that particular opportunity. But once I work with somebody and I do that, that cover letter for that opportunity becomes a template that they can use for other opportunities just by changing some words and some phrases here and there. But I do not have a so-called template. This is the way I work with somebody to help them in job search.
Okay. Another message, can't quite read the name well. Looks like it's from Anne. If it is best to make it personal, wouldn't it be better to send individual thank yous rather than a CC?
You can do that, certainly. And as I say, it only becomes a little bit of a challenge when you have 7 or 8 other people that you've spoken with. The one thing you want to be careful about when you do that is those should be very short notes, brief thank you notes, maybe a 2-sentence or 3-sentence paragraph. If you're sending that many out, please do not send exact same content to everyone, because those people are going to talk about the meeting that they had with you, and they receive this thank you note, and the next thing they're going to discover is, geez, you sent us all the same thing. That's why I like to try to avoid that if I can by sending the copies. And you can say, in the beginning, I enjoyed the opportunity of meeting with you and several members of your organization. And then by CCing them, I think you've done what's absolutely appropriate without sending out several letters.
Okay. Just responding to someone. Let's see. So that seems to be the end of the Q&A. So that was terrific, Gary. If you have a closing comment, fine. If not, we will just quickly move on.
Okay, there's a little background on me. As you know, I am a career coach. My focus is on helping people land interviews. So that includes, obviously, development of your master resume, which you will use as a basic resume to then customize to fit jobs that you want to apply to. They have all the information that you need to do that. My focus is on the headline and the about section of the LinkedIn profile, which is what anybody that's looking at you as a potential candidate will be reviewing, in addition to reviewing your resume and your cover letter. And then, of course, cover letters and thank you letters, which you've seen. And the last but not least is I'm helping people develop targeted job search strategies to help them shorten their time in transition. And here's my contact information.
Okay. So good. I'll leave this slide up just for another moment or so in case anyone wants to take a screenshot. If you don't take a screenshot, no worry, because the presentation is now actually up on our website, psgofmercercounty.org. On the right-hand side of every screen is a link called Meeting Presentation Documents, and that's what this is. This is a document for the meeting, so this will be there. A little while later, the video will be up as well. I'm going to download the video. Might have to trim off a little bit at the beginning and end just to make it a little clean, and then I will post it on our YouTube channel and also in our meeting presentation documents. So just want to let you know also what's coming up. First of all, thank you to everyone who has written a thank you. Seemed very appropriate for the topic. Getting a lot of thank you chats, Gary, so a lot of people are appreciative.
Oh,
And
great.
why not thank us, or thank you, Gary, for thank you.
And I appreciate the questions. A lot of those questions were right on target for what you do and why you do it, and I was pleased to answer those.
Yep, yep. Okay, so let me just quickly get ourselves back to speaker view. There we are. Oh, so Gary is there, it looks like. So want to thank you, Gary. Just want to let everyone know what's coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
Yes, we are indeed continuing with the virtual presentations each Friday morning at 10 o'clock. That is our regular in-person meeting time, so we are going to extend that to virtual. I don't think we could stop it. Just to let you know, folks, we had 96 the peak today, so clearly a lot of people are interested in the topics that we offer. So coming up next week, April 10th, I can't believe it's April 10th next week, I will be doing a presentation. It's called Uncover the Hidden Job Market. And Forbes released an article a couple of years ago, which we'll talk about. Up to 70% of positions that are open are not posted. They're considered the hidden job market. So we'll talk about how to crack through that. That'll be next Friday, April 10th, at 10 o'clock in the morning. You can use your same link that we sent you to get to this one presentation today. The following week, Harris Gubin will be joining us. I'm excited about this because it's a topic we don't talk about often, but may be relevant for several people, which is called Why to Consider the Path to Business Ownership, Franchise Exploration and Finding the Right Fit. For some of us, the next opportunity will be owning our own business. And it may be actually easier or more convenient to do so with a franchise and established business. So Harris will talk about that. So I'm excited to have that. It's been a while since we've had a topic like that as well. We do promote other groups in the area that are still being able to be active and virtual. Coming up next Saturday, the 11th, 8 o'clock in the morning, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey has their virtual meeting. They will have their own Zoom meeting. It's a different link than you used to get to this one. So go to their website, thebreakfastclubnj.com, thebreakfastclubnj.com. The presentation, I'll be giving that presentation. It's called How to Work as a Consultant in the Gig Economy. For many of us, the opportunities to be gig-oriented or project or specific project or task-oriented is a little bit new, and full-time becomes a little bit less available. So we'll be talking about working as a consultant in the gig economy. And that'll be at the Breakfast Club next Saturday. So as I mentioned, the slides are online now. The video will be online very shortly. Remember, you can join our LinkedIn group. And if we haven't met or I don't know you, I may send you a note, or you can also message me through LinkedIn or through my email or psg@mercercounty@gmail.com. And we do have a YouTube channel. So in a little while, it will have 3 videos that we'll post this one shortly. We have Adrian from 2 weeks ago, Bill from last week on marketing plans. So those are there already. And in the meantime, everyone, we hope to see you soon. We appreciate you joining us. And please stay safe and healthy. And we'll see you soon, hopefully online. Thanks very much. And thanks again to Gary. Bye, everybody.